God wanted me to enjoy my sexuality and to help other people de-shame their relationship with sex and their body. I think OnlyFans has empowered a lot of women because we can make money being our feminine self. There was years where I just wasn't thinking about sex at all. And when I finally went through my divorce, it was like something went off in my brain of, wow, I'm a sexual creature. I started doing photo shoots to kind of help my self-esteem and my self-confidence. I realized that I actually was really good at them. And I just started posting them on Facebook and got a lot of positive feedback. There was a part of me that was like, look, all these other guys want me, even if you didn't want me. Like all these other guys now want me. Social media and technology has separated a lot of people where if they can just get everything they need from a screen, why would they need actual relationships? You know, if they can get everything they need from their phone, why would they actually want to go through the ups and downs of a real relationship? People are just focusing on the pleasure of sex versus the deep intimacy that can happen when you're actually making love with someone. I think that there's definitely karma with what I'm doing, but it's also one of those things that if I was a bartender and someone was an alcoholic, I can't control their decisions when they're not working with me. I have been sexualized for most of my life. Well, now I'm just monetizing on it. They just want to see my boobs. I'm not going to do it in person. They can buy an OnlyFans subscription and give me money, and then I can support my kids. I think that every woman can benefit from becoming more in tune with their sexuality.
The following episode of the Health King's Court contains explicit language in the discussion of sex and sexuality for educational purposes. Audience discretion is advised. Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Health King's Court, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Health. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us. She is an entrepreneur, an author, an adult model, and a women's empowerment coach. She focuses on helping women release their inner goddesses by tapping into their sexuality and pleasure center. She loves to help women become financially independent. So she's also a business coach, helping female entrepreneurs in assorted businesses, including, but not limited to, adult online modeling. She works with women to elevate their online adult modeling careers while also building safe for work social media presences they can monetize. She's gone from just $20 in the bank to being a multi-millionaire in 3 years and now owns 6 successful businesses, in addition to a foundation raising money for charities. It's an honor to welcome Nita Marie to the podcast. Welcome, Nita.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. There's so much that we could go into, so little time to go into it. But let's get started, because in that intro even, I just mentioned that you have 6 businesses. Do you want to just run through what those are? Because that's a lot to manage.
Yes. Well, some of it is all related to my adult modeling. There's businesses within businesses. And then, of course, some of it is also one of the businesses that I've kept before I started adult modeling. So I have, of course, still my cosmetic business that really kind of gave me the foundation to learn all the other skills that's helped me with my adult modeling. And then I also have my sanctuary, which is a business, my Dog Heaven LLC Sanctuary. It's where we help dogs, cats, and horses that would have been otherwise euthanized. And that is what we call a social action business. And then I have 4 businesses within my OnlyFans adult modeling business.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So they're all related in the adult modeling thing, plus cosmetics, plus animals.
Yeah. I mean, awesome. I don't know where cosmetics and animals come in, but it's just like, other things I like to do.
Awesome. Well, today we're here to talk about more of that adult modeling side of things. And there's a lot to unpack there. Yes. And so let's just start right from the beginning. What is it that brought you to entering such a space? And why is it that it's something that you pursue these days?
Well, I really just started it after my divorce. I was looking to feel better about myself. In my previous marriage, I had really cut myself off of my sexuality, and we really stopped having sex after I gave birth to my twins. And so there was years where I just wasn't thinking about sex at all. And when I finally went through my divorce, it was like something went off in my brain of, wow, I'm a sexual creature. Like, let's start having fun again. And so I started doing photo shoots to kind of help my self esteem and my self confidence. And in college, I had done photo shoots. And so I really enjoyed doing that. And when I started doing them again, I realized that I actually was really good at them. And the photos were very captivating. And so I started posting them on Facebook because they were all, just boudoir photos, no nude photos at this time. And I just started posting them on Facebook and got a lot of positive feedback. So then it inspired me to continue modeling and just exploring that side of myself again.
Interesting. So it's after a long period within the marriage of kind of feeling down, the expression of yourself in modeling helped you bring yourself up. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I mean, I had really started to feel unattractive sexually because my partner wasn't having sex with me. So I started to think maybe there was something wrong with me. So when I ended up doing the modeling and starting the photos and posting and getting positive feedback from my fans, I realized it really wasn't me. It was more of an us problem and maybe a him problem than a me problem. So that really helped.
Interesting. And if you don't mind, I would love to dive into what happened there because that's an experience that a lot of people have. Far too many people find themselves in long-term relationships or marriages that for some reason or another, that spark went away, that attraction, that fire, the passion, and then they just go long periods of time, sometimes into eternity,
Yeah,
being non-sexual.
right.
What would you mind explaining what happened there? Was it always like that, or what kind of contributed to getting there?
Well, I can share what happened with me, but then I can also share my theory overall of what happens in relationships. I mean, for me, it was basically just, it really happened once I got pregnant with our twins. And I don't know if all of a sudden he felt like there was not an attraction there because I was going to be a mom of his kids. And maybe he felt like it was wrong to be attracted to me anymore. But there was definitely a change as soon as I got pregnant. We had always I had in the past still had to kind of like coerce him to have sex. But after I got pregnant, it was like, is really hard. And obviously it didn't work for me to try to get him to have sex. So I think that it was a subconscious thing on his end of not feeling good about himself being attracted to now the mother of his kids. Like maybe he thought that was like a perverted thing or something like that. I don't know.
Interesting. And where does a thought like that come from, you think? Because I don't think that's a ingrained thing. I don't have children right now, but
Yeah.
I think it sounds a bit strange to somehow have this beautiful experience with a woman and now, ooh, that woman's less desirable to me. To me, it sounds like that would make them more desirable. What
Right. And that's what I've learned is that every man is kind of different. As I've learned being in this business, is that every man's attractions are different based on certain things that have happened in their life. And I think that maybe what had happened is that he had really sexualized me before. And then all of a sudden, being, the mom of his, you know, children made him think, oh, I can't sexualize her anymore because now she's like a real person. Um, Sorry, I don't know if you can pause it. Let me go take
Sure.
care of my dog.
Sure,
I'm
sure,
gonna
sure.
get my
All
dog.
right. Awesome. Well, firstly, thank you for being willing to go into this because I think it's an important conversation regarding the health aspect of sexuality and the mental health aspect of it, because that's an interesting point you've raised.
Yeah,
Perhaps if a man over fetishizes a woman, and views them only as a sex object or primarily as a sexual object instead of a romantic partner or sexual partner mutually, then yeah, when something happens that kind of breaks that illusion or shatters that veil,
Right.
then it's like, oh, well, I can't just objectify this person anymore. And then it swings the other way. It's like, oh, okay, I can't just play around. That's a
Yeah.
very interesting point you raise about the mental side of attraction and relationships. Do you
Yeah.
think that looking back, there were flags maybe that things were kind of in that direction? Or is
Oh
that something that
yeah,
kind of
for
developed?
sure. I definitely think that he looked at me more as a sex object than a partner, in general. And I didn't really realize that until I kind of started healing different parts of myself, realizing that I had kind of put myself into a sexualized role instead of being a partner, like it, and not really voicing my feelings, not really voicing things that were important to me. And he was someone that was always kind of into sexualizing women. And I didn't really notice that either because he would go to Hooters and really kind of be that type of guy that would do that. Now, I'm not judging anyone who does that because, of course, I have a whole group of fans on my OnlyFans that probably sexualize me. But I had just, like, it's just, I'm not judging that. It's just, that's the relationship I was in, is that it was based on him thinking I looked a certain way and I was kind of like a trophy wife. And so when I then got pregnant and my body changed and now I'm humanized, all of a sudden I wasn't attractive. And I also, through my pregnancy, gained about 60 pounds. So my body became a lot more curvy. And I also think that kind of was a turnoff for him and ended up being something that also he wasn't attracted to.
Interesting. There's so many philosophical questions in that. And
Yeah.
I just want to recognize that I think it's very healthy that you recognize, hey, I was half of the relationship.
Yeah.
Perhaps I contributed to the way things went down a certain road as well,
Yeah.
because that's absolutely important. I think a lot of people, men or women, kind of play into this victim mentality when a relationship doesn't go their way. It's like, hey, well, they did that. They did this to me. Not, oh, okay, I allowed or even shaped this behavior. That's very interesting. But it's something else interesting that I thought of. You mentioned that perhaps he had an over sexualized brain or an over fetishized or over sexualized outlook on the relationship. But yet, you also said you were the one that was the sexual pursuer more of the time and had to go after that. That kind of sounds like a conflict there. Wouldn't someone over sexualized be the one that's like, hey, let's do it, let's do it? You,
Yeah, I mean, you would think so, but there also is a level of intimacy when you're having sex with someone. It depends on each person, but a lot of times there is a level of intimacy. And one of the ironic things about my job now is he was someone that would oftentimes look at porn and maybe he'd rather get off to that than actually have sex with me. So I think there was a little bit of a subconscious thing in my mind when I started OnlyFans of, I'm going to get you now. Like, like I have all these guys that are looking at me when you weren't looking at me and looking at porn instead. So whether or not that was, a healthy choice or not, it just is kind of what happened, I think. Like there was a part of me that was like, look, all these other guys want me, even if you didn't want me. Like all these other guys now want me.
Interesting. Interesting. And that's, of course, natural, right? I think it's very
Yeah.
natural for a man or a woman in a relationship that feels undesired to seek feeling desired elsewhere, such
Yeah.
as, instances of infidelity or porn or flirting online, whatever. So I think that is a natural, innate feeling or desire in some sort of way. And then how we act upon it, of course, can vary.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting topic right there. And that's kind of the topic of today in pornography.
Yeah.
It's so controversial. It's as
Right.
old as time itself,
Yes.
but yet it's so controversial. There's people that are inherent or hell-bent on it being downright evil in all capacities, in all realms, in all ways. It's all evil. And then there's people that say, oh, it's, the best thing to humanity, and obviously anywhere in between. What, I guess, how would you define pornography? And then let's start there. How would you define like porn? What are we talking about here?
Well, I believe pornography is anything that its intention is to turn somebody on. So it could be even as simple as a sexual photo that's fully clothed. That still is more on the lines of pornography than a photo that's not intended to turn someone on. So, like a picture of a girl in yoga pants, obviously a guy might get turned on by that. But if you angle it a certain way, and if the girl's looking a certain way in her face, and if she's kind of flirting with the camera, then that's designed to turn a guy on. So I think that it's any kind of content that is designed to actually turn the viewer on is considered pornography.
So it's in the intent of the creator and not necessarily the perception of it, because you could
Yeah,
pornify really anything into all sorts of unhealthy extremes. So
exactly.
it's the intent of the creator to elicit a sexual response or a reaction or provocation,
Yes.
essentially. And so, what do you think is the role of porn in society? Does it serve a function? Does it serve an important, essential role?
I think
Or
it
is it
does
or is it just,
because
evil?
well, obviously, I don't think it's just evil. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I do think that there's moral conflict with certain things still with me. But in my experience, what I have found is that the most painful thing about pornography is when someone uses it as a way to distance himself from his partner. So, for example, it was very painful for me to have my partner looking at pornography and not being willing to be intimate with me. But if we had been looking at pornography together to get turned on and to actually be able to then have a deeper sex life, that wouldn't have bothered me because you can look at pornography as a means to get turned on. Another thing that I found can be helpful with pornography is if you are with someone that is not with you physically. So, for example, a lot of people travel, a lot of husbands travel, a lot of partners travel, and men do need physical out release, I believe, a physical release sexually every other day, every day. I mean, every man's different, but I think that because of the testosterone built up, that men are very much wired differently than women. And so just to think that, okay, my guy's going to be gone for 2 weeks and to think he's not going to have a need to, jack off during those 2 weeks is fairly unrealistic of me. So I'm going to either try to video chat with him during that time or send him sexy pictures of myself or know that he may look online to get off during those 2 weeks. So I think that more about it is talking about it versus keeping it in the shadows, because when it's kept in the shadows and people hide it, that's when there's, pain. And that's when you feel deceived as the other person. And so that's where I really have a mission to kind of bring about change in the industry where I think it's something that people should talk about more and not feel ashamed of, and try to come to like an agreement with their partner about how to use pornography if it's something that's been an issue.
So essentially, though it can be used in unhealthy ways that harm a partner or perhaps even harm oneself, there is a use case for it to maintain good health as well at the same time. Because I agree. I think I agree with that. And as a man who studied men's health, etc., I am also in agreement that men need healthy release,
Yeah,
especially high testosterone men. Our
right,
bodies produce fluids and they need to expel, otherwise they back up, and it's not a good thing when that happens. And
right.
I think it's an important thing to say. because there's all these dorks these days. Ooh, no fab, never, never, ever, never release your seed, hold on to it forever. It's
It's
just
not
such
healthy biologically.
no, it's absolutely not healthy
No,
biologically. It's
no.
absolutely not healthy biologically. I can speak to that from my own observations. I could speak to that from speaking with medical professionals and healing practitioners. No, it has to come in and it's created. It is meant to get out there.
Right.
And that's the ancient biological design of our bodies. Now, in modern times, think that could look a little different. So I guess modern porn is a tool that can be incorporated into that to maintain that. But that's just brought me to another interesting question. Modern porn, right? We could
Right.
talk about old school, cave drawings of
Yeah.
nice voluptuous women. That's a big difference in level of stimulation and level of extremity and a level of immersion than we see today that our bodies might not have been designed to ever interact with. We have, the phones were one thing, the computer screens were one thing, but now you
Yeah.
could virtual reality goggle yourself
Yeah.
and like be immersed in it entirely in like a whole different reality or artificial.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the ramifications you think of just how far the industry has gotten versus maybe where it was originally, like how it was originally performing?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question because I think that one of the biggest criticisms of pornography is that if someone only uses that, then there's no satisfaction. So that's where the addiction can come, where if someone's just used to pleasuring themselves with pornography and is not really working on building fulfilling relationships, then they can then get to a point that they're not satisfied with just a simple photo of a nude woman, and that they need more extreme things, more things to actually get them turned on. And I think that's kind of a scary thing about where it can go because in general, social media and technology has separated a lot of people where if they can just get everything they need from a screen, why would they need actual relationships? If they can get everything they need from their phone, why would they actually want to go through the ups and downs of a real relationship? So I think that that's the risk of where pornography is going is that, if I was a guy and I could just use like a virtual thing to have a relationship with a virtual person, and I'm mainly focused on sex as a young guy, like let's say I'm in my 20s and I've got a lot of testosterone, it would be way more appealing to just have a virtual sexual relationship than to go through the ups and downs of a real relationship, because there's a lot of effort that goes into a real relationship. And that's, I think, the scary part because people are just focusing on the pleasure of sex versus the deep intimacy that can happen when you're actually making love with someone.
Yeah, it's cheap dopamine.
Right.
And cheap dopamine comes with a massive cost to overall wellness because, we are designed, I guess, in our head to be efficient,
Yeah.
get things as easy as possible, to maintain resources. And I think a lot of the detriment that we see and the way that it gets misused is that people fry their dopamine receptors and then can't feel anything from,
Right.
other things. That's a very real thing. Dopamine receptors get fried when they are
Oh,
overstimulated and
right.
overstimulated constantly. And that's what causes people to seek out more and more extreme things, the crazy fetishes, all the different perversion, this, that, the other. We can get into that and the role that it plays in perhaps, homosexuality, transgenderism, and it's autophilia, whatever, pedophilia potentially. Because
Yeah.
when people, not that it's the case for everybody, but when, hey, there's that hot girl looking at a photo. All right, that's not doing it anymore. Okay, there's her, being nude. That's not doing it. There's her pleasuring herself. That's not doing it. There's one-on-one sex. That's not doing it. Like
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like how extreme do we have to get And I think that that's actually a real risk in this business is I tell girls all the time, don't cross your boundaries just to make money. Because once you cross your boundaries, the fans are going to want more and more and more. So I'll tell girls that, okay, do you want to be a solo creator or do you want to be a creator with somebody else? Because once you start doing girl content, fans are going to start asking, when are you doing another girl video? You know, once you start doing boy girl content, they're going to be asking, when can you do this? When can you do that? You know, can you get a bigger dick? Can you do, you know, anal? Can you like, so it's like the never ending rabbit hole of what people are going to request because the money will be there. But I did actually want to share, I learned one thing even before I got into OnlyFans that studies show that as a porn star, this is before OnlyFans, but as a porn star, there's a rise of the porn star. And as soon as she starts doing anal, her rise like taps out. So it's kind of like if you think about the seduction, you know, and if I'm sitting here trying to seduce someone and, you know, I just take off all my clothes, then that seduction buildup is gone. And then they're going to want me to do more and more to actually get turned on. Where if you can go a little bit slower and build up a little bit, make them want it a little bit more, and always keep them in like that teasing place, then it's not going to get to like the major extremes of, well, I need you to do anal for me to even get off, you know?
Yeah. And that's just good business. That's just psychology. That's really anything. You know, if you play all your cards right away, well, then what do you have left, right? Why
Right.
would people already know what you got? So yeah, I've read also that some of the top performing women are the ones who don't do the extreme stuff.
Right.
Because then it has all these people kind of, hey, ooh, you know, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. You know?
Like the fantasy of it, like,
Yeah.
wow, I can't wait until she does this or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so we've talked about how there could be kind of a cascade of unhealthy behavior from adult content or from the unhealthy use of adult content. Where do you think, if any, or I guess, what do you think is the relation of an end consumer unhealthily using adult content and the creator of that content? Do you think there's any karmic retribution or karmic effect on someone putting something out there that perhaps even a majority of the users are going to misuse and even maybe destroy their lives with?
I think that there's definitely a balance with that. I do think there's karma with anything we do. So, yeah, I think that there's definitely karma with what I'm doing. But it's also one of those things that if I was a bartender and someone was an alcoholic, I can't control their decisions when they're not working with me. You know, the bartender can cut them off and be like, listen, you've had enough, buddy. But they can't control if they're going to drink themselves to death when they get home. And I think that that's where I've really come to in my own life is, you know, I have been sexualized for most of my life. And I think that there's a lot of women in this business that also feel that way. And so for me, it's just a matter of, well, now I'm just monetizing on it. You know, like even when I was single and I was going on dates, it was consistently, you know, I go on the first date and by the second date, the guy wanted to have sex with me. And it wasn't really anyone that wanted to have a relationship with me. So at that point, why am I even wasting my time? Just give me $40 that I can buy dinner for me and my kids instead of spending time with you when really all you want to do is have sex. So that's where, again, the OnlyFans came from is, okay, a lot of these guys don't really want to have a relationship with me. They just want to see my boobs. I'm not going to do it in person. They can buy an OnlyFans subscription and give me money, and then I can support my kids and not have to worry about all of that stuff with you, in person. So that was kind of the impetus of that. And I think that there obviously is going to be, issues with men and pornography, but those issues would probably exist regardless of whether or not I'm in the business. And I would still be sexualized even if I wasn't making money. So if I'm being sexualized anyway, and if guys are fantasizing about me anyway, I might as well get monetized and be able to use that money to support my kids.
I think that's a mature and realistic way to look at it. And I agree with, from the outside looking in, I agree with that being a healthy outlook. Women are sexual beings, men are sexual beings. Or
Yes.
maybe let me say, attractive women and attractive men are sexualized beings. Now, we
Yes.
could talk about how maybe this amount of women are considered attractive to most men, or at least some men, but maybe like this amount of men are actually considered attractive to women versus
Right.
the other men, all the other men that don't exist. But I think it's a healthy way to look at it. And it's one that I think I'd like to platform because there's all these dorks out here. There's all these dorks with their stupid podcasts and their stupid content, red pill, this, that. Oh, women are evil. Look, they're making this. Get a
Uh-huh.
trad wife. Dorks, 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 dorks. It's it's just reality that women are sexualized and sexual beings.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard out there, right? The
Yeah.
economy's rough. It's hard. What are you going to do? You're going to tell a woman to go work some stupid job to, get pennies on the dollar to try and support herself or maybe her family, whatever. And
Yeah.
we get into, should women be working anyway? That's a whole other conversation. But reality in 2024 is we need money.
Yes.
And why should a woman lock herself off from a potential very lucrative money making endeavor that can be very safe? You don't even have to necessarily leave your house. You
Right.
don't necessarily have to put your real name. You don't even necessarily have to put your face out there.
Right.
There's lots of money being made, and then women being able to support their families, support their kids, support them, just even themselves, and keep themselves safe by capitalizing on the body that they've been blessed with.
Right.
So I think the dorks that called it, oh, it's just evil, it's evil. It's like, come on, like what do you,
It's
it's
real. It's biological. And I also think most of those people are repressed sexually. And you were talking a little bit about how there's a whole group of men that think, keep your seed. Your seed should not be falling on the ground. Like, I think that's something that people quote from the Bible or something. But in my opinion, if a guy is not ejaculating at least a few times a week, that energy is going to go inwards. And that's when you see a lot of anger and a lot of violence. So, in my opinion, America is way more violent than we are sexual. Yeah, women are sexualized. Yes, people like looking at sexy women. But if you look at the overall what's accepted in our society, is violence is way more accepted than sex. So the minute you put a topless person in a video or in a movie, it's automatically an R movie. But you can have so much violence, you can have so much bad language, and it's still only PG-13. Even some of the video games, they're very violent, and teenagers are playing them. But if it was a woman with boobs, even cleavage or like showing nipples, it would be outrage because our society accepts violence more than they do sex. And so these men that are saying don't ejaculate, they're violent people. I can almost guarantee you those are the men that are probably, being verbally abusive to their wives, being like aggressive and other things. They're the people that are going to troll the social medias and be assholes because they're like not healthy sexually.
I think a lot of the time too, they're probably the most degenerate porn consumers themselves that
Right,
have no
right.
bearing themselves and then
Yeah.
just cope and put this online that go, no, no, no. But yeah, there's Oh man, there's so much to unpack in a lot of these answers that you give. Because yes, pressure, if not contained,
Hmm.
or if built up and not relieved, explodes.
Right, exactly. It's got
Right.
to explode somehow.
Now we could
So,
talk about, of course, how different containers have different levels of pressure that they can take, right? We
mhm.
there A strong man should be able to go as much time as whatever happens without sexual release and not become violent or an awful fucking person.
Right.
But there's many weak men out there that, oh my God, it's been 3 days, I'm freaking out, There's
Yeah.
also that. And so at the same time, yes, healthy release, good, but also get a grip on yourself, man.
Yeah. Like
Get also
control, control.
yeah,
Right.
being able to
Exactly.
emotionally self-regulate. And this is where the ping pong happens though, because through porn use and overuse or misuse, those dopamine receptors get fried and people get reward without work.
Right.
And that's a big problem that keeps a lot of men or a lot of men keep themselves weak with because they're getting one of the best rewards, I guess, that we're designed with. Ooh, sexy interaction with a woman. That's supposed to require work.
Right.
That's supposed to require, I guess, in the modern world at least, or from the ancient world, whatever. I'm a good man. I'm a strong man. I'm a healthy man. I'm a fit man. She thinks that she's safe with me. She thinks that I am, worthwhile of connecting with her, this, that, whatever. That takes work as a man to develop oneself into. But now people can get the dopamine hits and get that sexual experience reward without any work other than a couple finger taps.
But they still
And
need to pay for it though. So that's the thing is that they still have to pay. So there is that energy exchange. And a lot of times, guys can't do that honestly if they're not making enough money. So if they're not making it enough money, they can't get that from people online.
in the OnlyFans space, though,
Right,
they're
right.
still, God, probably near infinite, probably in the time that we're talking, tens of thousands of videos posted that are free as well. And so let's talk
Oh,
about that a
right.
bit. What's the relationship between general online content and OnlyFans content? Because they're lumped in by a lot of people. They're obviously similar in a lot of regards, but is one healthier than the other? Is one more dangerous than the other? What do you think?
Well, I think personally, OnlyFans does require more work because you have to pay for it. Um, and also, it's building oftentimes relationships with the creator. So, a lot of times, the reason why someone might go on OnlyFans is because they don't want to just go to Pornhub and watch a video. They want to actually be able to talk to the creator. Now, I will say that OnlyFans, unfortunately, there's been a lot of free stuff that's gone out lately that I disagree with because I think if a guy can get it for free, he's going to get it for free, right? And then that automatically like lowers the bar for the amount of work that they have to do to get it, kind of like what we were talking about. So I personally wish that there were more accounts that were paid because it would then cause men to have to again rise up to be able to get some of the content and to be able to talk to the fans or the models, I mean, versus being able to just access an account for free. Even though normally you can't see much nudity on there and you can't really see, a sexual video if an account is for free, it still just keeps them from actually having to make a whole lot of effort to even be able to message the model.
So you're pitching that it's more work to interact with an OnlyFans model in the sense that you like chat with them and this, and so it's some sort of relationship being built in a sense. But what about when men are working towards that or working towards that in any sort of way, but it's all artificial? Because it's no secret that a lot of OnlyFans models are nothing but models, and
Yeah.
their accounts are run by whomever else, a chatter woman or a man, even it's the one answering messages and doing it all. And so what do you think is the implications there when it's like, okay, if they're putting in a little more work to at least appear to be a semi decent human and not a total weirdo, but it could be artificial. And even maybe the weirdos are getting rewarded with continued interaction for the sake of extracting more money. And so then it's rewarding this weirdo behavior that's like, ooh, more, potentially, and kind of reinforcing that. You see that there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I do think that with the interaction with models, it would be very similar to if, someone subscribed to a Patreon of a celebrity and they're thinking that they're talking to the celebrity, but they're, what's the realistic thing that the celebrity is actually answering their DMs? Similar to if you message them on Instagram and all of a sudden you got a message back. I think, though, I would love there to be more authentic connections on OnlyFans, because that's actually OnlyFans motto is creators building authentic relationships with their fans. that is like their mission statement. And so in my mind, I really try to make my fans feel like I know who they are. Now, will there be mistakes with that? Yes. And will there be, guys that I mess stuff up with? Yes. But I personally try to make that authentic relationship because I think deep inside, most guys who follow OnlyFans accounts want to feel important. I think a lot of guys who follow OnlyFans accounts, they either, aren't in relationships, or they're in relationships where they don't have an intimate relationship with their partner. And they really do want to feel important. Like, I think that's just a natural human thing, is that they want to feel important and that someone's thinking about them.
But does that get back in that kind of brings you back to the conversation of people are being allowed to feel important while being loser dorks that aren't important. And then it's a negative feedback. And then those people, versus if they were cut off from any of the reward cheaply, they would have to then, hey, build themselves up and actually become important, you know?
Yeah, well, I guess I believe everyone's important. I think that there's going to be guys that, yeah, would they be able to talk to a sexy girl without working on certain things? Probably not, but I don't know. I just think that everybody's important, no matter, what they look like or how much money they have. But in general, would they be able to talk to like a gorgeous, beautiful woman and have them have long conversations with them without giving them money? I mean, I don't know. There's guys, I mean, you're surprised, because there's also guys that are on OnlyFans that could probably get any woman that they wanted. I mean, I don't know why they're on OnlyFans. They just like the flavor of the month, I guess. Like, I think when a guy joins OnlyFans, it's like going to a candy store and being like, okay, what flavor do I want today? It's like, I think it could be very addicting because there's so many beautiful women out there. It's like, it would almost be like, wow, I want to have chocolate today, and tomorrow I want to have, strawberry. It's like any choice of the matter that they could get.
Is going on OnlyFans cheating if you're in a relationship otherwise?
I think it's cheating if you're not telling your partner. Yes. I don't think that it's cheating if you tell them, because if you tell them, then they have a choice of whether or not they want to still be with you. So I actually did a whole YouTube about what should you do if you catch your partner looking at porn. And I have a couple different opinions on that. But one of the things is that if you're really not okay with it, you need to decide if you're going to still be with that person. But there are ways to work around it where you're like, okay, you can look at porn, but I really don't want you looking at porn if, we're able to have sex. I want to be looked at as a priority. Or you could tell them, you can look at porn while you're traveling. If you have boundaries around it, then I think it can work. But if you're like, no, I absolutely don't want you ever looking at porn, and that guy is someone that is attracted to that, then it's very possible that that relationship won't work out because I think the guys that look at porn probably will always kind of look at porn. I think it's just more of a character trait than like an action, if that makes sense. So I think that part of what the really born again Christian community will say is, oh, give yourself to God and, never look at porn again. Well, I think that it's the kind of like, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like telling me I am not going to, I'm not allowed to drink coffee. I feel like it's not as bad as people say it is, but it can be bad if you're not allowed to do it because then people are going to do it behind someone's back. And then that's when it causes a lot of problems.
Yeah, and so you've brought in religion a bit, and I've seen in your website and such, you refer to yourself or have been referred to as a Christian OnlyFans model
Yeah.
specifically. What's the relation there? Like, and how does Christianity kind of tie into the modeling, or how do you feel they interact with each other, those parts of your life?
Well, when I first started modeling, I did have, again, my own questions of, is this moral? Is this ethical? And so I would have conversations with God about it and be like, if this is not what you want me to do, like, be really clear because I'm having fun and I'm making money. Like, that was my thing. It's like, I'm having fun and making money. If you really don't want me to do this, like, you have to be really clear that this is not something that I should be doing. And what really kept coming to me was that God wanted me to enjoy my sexuality and to help other people de-shame their relationship with sex and their body. And that's what I kept getting that message. And so to me, that gave me permission to continue doing it because of, again, going back to what we were talking about is I believe everything has to do with intention. And my intention was to empower myself and to express myself. And if I was going to get monetized for that, then that's great. And that's what I've been able to bring into my coaching group is helping women feel great about their own bodies and feel great about their sexuality and to be able to make money that way.
Do you think that there's differences in how wholesome or maybe looked how it's looked upon by God between doing self content or like more interactions with other content like sex itself, boy girl, whatever? Is there different levels of, you think, wholesomeness there?
I don't think so. I think that the difference is are both parties consensual and are both parties enjoying it. One thing I'm really big on in the industry is that both parties have to be enjoying what they're doing. Not necessarily always having an orgasm, but at least enjoying the partner and enjoying what they're actually doing. So we talk a lot about boundaries and we talk a lot about, you know, do you like this or are you into this? And, if they're not into it, we don't do it. Well, at least I don't do it. And I recommend other people don't do it. I don't recommend anyone do anything just for money. But if they're attracted to the other person and they're going to have fun doing it, then I think there's no difference in doing that than doing solo self pleasuring stuff.
Why do you think, and there's so many questions and so little time, again, I think we could definitely squeeze a part two sometime, but
Yeah, I
why,
still have some time. Yeah.
yeah, why do you think, so we've mentioned that people's sexuality is repressed, both
Yeah.
women's and men's, but inherently everyone is a sexual being,
Right.
and women are known to also be more sexual and sensual and watery and flowy and kind of more in that space by nature, and that's more inherently kind of involved in their nature, perhaps. I think at the same time that we keep saying, oh, women are becoming sexual objects and being treated like objects and sexualized. Well, in actuality, they're becoming more masculinized on average as well. And that is repressing their inherent sensuality to a great detriment.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts on that? How, everyone always freaks out, oh, don't sexualize women, don't sexualize women. When maybe a woman might really want to be sexualized to feel beautiful in a way, it might be making her feel actually awful that she's not looked at as beautiful or desirable. It's like a mind screw there.
Yeah.
What's
Well,
going
I'm
on?
glad you actually brought that up because I think that's definitely my opinion is women have gone the other way where they don't want to be looked at as being sexualized at all. And like for example, part of the reasons why I like to wear shirts that show a little bit of cleavage is because I like looking at my cleavage. It has nothing to do whether or not you like looking at my cleavage. I like looking in the mirror and being like, wow, I look sexy. I look hot. And I think women have felt unsafe to do that, where they don't feel safe dressing in ways that they can say, I look sexy, I feel hot, in the workplace, because there will be the comments or the stares. And for me, I don't really care. Like I don't really care if someone stares at me or if I, can tell they're getting turned on by me. I would care if they acted on it and they, slapped my ass in the workplace, right? And that's where you're talking about like the self-control. That there's like a two-party dance here. Like if a woman's going to feel safe wearing something that she feels good in, then the guy needs to control himself that he may feel attracted to her, but he's not going to make a lewd comment or smack her butt or pinch her nipples or something like that because he can't control himself. And I think if we had more control with men, even though we knew that they were thinking about it, women would feel safer wearing things that they felt really pretty in, or sexy in or whatnot.
It's interesting that in that whole speech, you mentioned only the workplace, because that's
Yeah,
actually a whole different realm than general life otherwise. Because, yeah, and that's an interesting point because the workplace traditionally, at least in America, wherever, was all men. So
right.
when women got introduced to the workplace, how does that happen in a healthy way, right? Because, all right, men, it's all men, men focus on work, men are just working, blah, 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 done. You put in a woman, and now she comes in super feminine and super sensual and naturally just likes to wear things that are feminine and accentuate her sexuality, perhaps, then it's distracting. Yes, a
Yeah.
man should be able to control himself. Absolutely. But now you've just thrown a wrench into a plain operating machine that is a corporate world. Whether that's a healthy realm for anybody, that's a whole other thing. But now it's like, how do you even go about that, right? Because if you allow women to just express sexuality, well, now you just have all this craziness and
You
whatever
have a
going
bunch of
on.
horny guys walking around the office.
Yeah, yeah, and then you have these playful games and the women playing into it, and then nobody's getting work done, and who's doing it with who in the break room, whatever. But if you don't, or if you don't allow that, and we have what you see today, like okay, in the workplace, no, you have to dress in the pantsuit and whatever, and desexualize yourself. Well, now can a woman even do that healthily? Can a woman masculinize herself for such a large degree of her life and repress her watery creativity side and feel healthy still? Because then she's gonna, then that's
Yeah.
that you can't just turn off biological needs because you're at work for 8 hours a day. It's like how do we do that healthily? And that's not a question for you to necessarily even answer because that's a whole big thing. I don't know if anyone has an answer to it,
Well,
but
I do have an opinion. I have an
sure,
opinion. I
sure.
think that that's just an example of our society being a very patriarchal society still. And our society has built all of its income and wealth based on men and what they're doing to make money. I think OnlyFans has empowered a lot of women because we can make money being our feminine self. And that's possibly tipped the scales a little bit, where now there's a lot of OnlyFans women that make way more money than a lot of corporate men would make. And so if we can empower women to make money by being their feminine self, then we don't feel like we have to masculinize ourselves to actually be in the workforce. We can do what maybe we're really naturally good at, which is being at home, focusing on our relationships, focusing on nurturing, focusing on being our feminine self. I don't really think women should be trying to be like men to make money, but we've been forced to do it because that is where the money is right now, or that's where the money has been. So, like, there is a whole movement of people making money in a feminine way. It doesn't have to be sexualized. It could be other feminine things, would be the nurturers, the healers, the caretakers. Like, for so many years, those people have not made very much money. And so they haven't had power in society. But now, if we can somehow empower those people to be making more money, they'll have more power, and then we'll have less of the need for women to not be women to make money. And so I think that it's just like a movement and like becoming more balanced as a whole. So we're not having to be like men to be successful, because our society is not completely based on men.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of men out there that just get pissed that women can take their top off and make a lot of money, and they might have to, do some harder stuff to make anything. And to those men, I'd say, okay, life's not fair. Do better. Find a way then,
But and also they don't know the reality of OnlyFans. And
True,
that's what I tell people, is that men that think we can make thousands of dollars just by taking our top off have never actually seen what an OnlyFans model goes through on a daily basis. Most OnlyFans models work 10 to 12 hours a day, and they are working hard. Now, there's going to be the lucky person that, just, posts on social media and gets viral videos and, all of that. But that's not the normal person. The normal person is working 10 to 12 hours a day, networking, marketing, answering fans. Like, if you think about it, okay, if I have 5,000 fans and they can all message me, how much time do you think that's going to take out of somebody's day?
True. So when you're saying normal, I'll maybe correct it and say the successful ones.
Yeah.
The average
Yeah.
successful ones are doing that, and the people who are on there that think like, oh, it is just a real quick thing, they get hit with the hard reality of, hey, this market is massively saturated. There's a million people out there trying to compete for the same attention and the same
Yeah.
money. You have to actually run it like a business.
Right.
So that's what you do. You are there as a coach for the people that might not be able to or want to or be up to handling the nitty gritty business side of things, the marketing, branding, promotion, networking, media, this, that. You do that for the women who maybe really have no interest in that, so they can still succeed in the space and have healthy guidance by you.
Yeah, I don't do that for them, but I coach them on what to do. So a lot of women come in and they are pretty and they do have great things to offer OnlyFans, but they don't have the business mindset yet. And so I give them my own tips to success, and help them get to the point that they're making more money, because they're now implementing some of the business tools along with, their pretty face and their, gorgeous butt.
So you're not a manager, but you're the coach that
Yeah,
said
as a coach.
you
Yeah,
can then do
exactly.
it on your own.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Because I know a big popular thing these days is the just management side of things, where okay, you just go, you're a face and a body, and then send the pictures, and then they'll do the rest. but that's a whole other.
And I don't like that. I think that most management teams are taking advantage of the models and they're, running their page into the ground. I do not like management teams. I tried to work with one time and just saw that it's really oftentimes a bunch of men who saw like the gold mine of OnlyFans and wanted to get a piece of the pie. That they're like, oh, if I can't make an OnlyFans, I'm going to manage an OnlyFans model and end up taking half of their money. When really I'd rather empower the model for them to actually get their own, systems in place so that they're keeping more of their money.
Yeah, and surely there's always a spectrum of things, right? I'm sure there's
Yes.
very wonderful management companies out there, and I'm sure there's very nefarious ones, to say the least, and all levels of skill, because I don't think every woman wants to do all the back end stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
It'd be perfect for some women to just say, all right, look, but that's
Yeah.
not what we're talking about because that's not what you do. We have like a minute here.
I mean,
Last,
we could still take another 5-6 minutes if you want.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let me recalculate based on that. Do you think any woman should or could benefit from a career in adult modeling, or is there certain ones that definitely shouldn't, or what do you think there?
That is a really good question. I think that every woman can benefit from becoming more in tune with their sexuality. I think that if a woman is not super comfortable with pornography in general, like if they're not super comfortable, with sex and with their body and with other people's body, then it could actually have a negative impact where they do it and then they stop doing it and they actually feel shameful about that part of their life. And they try to, redeem themselves in other ways and they worry that people are going to find out if they did it. They're going to worry if, they're trying to apply for a job and maybe their OnlyFans account pops up or, so I feel like in general, I'm an exception to the rule of being someone who is very faithful and Christian that can be in this business because I was not raised in a really born again Christian household. So I didn't have a lot of the judgment already placed on me. Where if you are someone that maybe was raised with a really strict household, it's going to be hard to deprogram yourself to not feel at least somewhat of a shameful thing of what you're doing. And so I've had a lot of friends that are Christian who were in this business and then ended up leaving and, kind of not that they felt shameful about it, but that they didn't feel like they were living up to, God's biggest and best plan for themselves. And that's fine. I mean, everybody has their own choice and their own ability to change careers, but I just feel like those type of people end up regretting it more than they end up like really liking that they did it.
Yeah, I think with anything, the foundation of approach and the really due thought process behind it is essential because, people might forget, but the internet is forever.
Right.
And that's the harsh reality that, okay, if someone tries it out, but then, doesn't want to do it anymore, that might not necessarily be a box that you could close, right?
Right.
So, okay, yeah, it might just, whatever, nobody cared, nobody, whatever, but that doesn't mean someone might not repost, put it here, put it there. It's a really dangerous potential that can be navigated healthily or unhealthily. But I definitely would advise anyone in anything they do, really think about if it is what you want to do,
Yeah.
because otherwise you'll be doing a disservice to yourself.
Well, and that was really for me why I kept asking God, like, are you sure you want me to do this? And that's one of the reasons why I am so confident with what I'm doing is because I know that this is my mission. Like, I know that my mission is to help the porn industry become into more of a healthy balance and to help women and men have less shame around their sex and their body. So for me, I know that this is what I'm supposed to do. So it's never been a question. But I think for anyone else that does it because of money, and they have maybe a little bit of moral conflict, but they're just doing it because they think they can make more money doing it, that I don't think is necessarily going to serve them in the future, because they're going to feel guilty about doing it just for money.
And so how did God tell you that he wanted you to keep going or get into this kind of work? Would you like to share that? What were the signs?
Well, for me, I am a very visual person, and I do have a lot of supernatural things that happen with me where I'll see something before it actually happens. And so my relationship with God has always been more of a mystical relationship where I am very intuitive. So I will see something and then it happens like a month later, 2 months later, a year later. And so for me, I was given the image of Joan of Arc. And Joan of Arc was someone that in her time, nobody believed her. Nobody believed what she was doing, and nobody believed that she had, a message from God about the French. And obviously, in the end, she was crucified for it. But then later, she was canonized as a saint. And I know, like in my heart, that this is something that we're unraveling as a human race. We're unraveling our relationship to sex and our relationship to our bodies. And 20 years from now, we're going to be in a totally different place. Maybe not 20 years, maybe 100 years. I don't know. But just think about how far we've come for 50 years, where women were stay-at-home moms and they, wore their, tight little skirts and their little high heels and look at where we are now. So I believe in 50 years, we'll be much healthier as a society with sex and with pornography. And I believe I'm like at the forefront of that change.
There's so many questions I want to ask you based on that, but we don't have time for that. Where can people find you? Where I know, you have a website, but you have services that you sell. If someone's interested in working with you, having you as their coach, or checking out more information you have, I know you've written a book. Where can people find any of that?
Best place to find me is my Instagram, which is love_Nita Marie. If you just search Nita Marie OnlyFans, you'll see my OnlyFans, but you'll also see my website. And my website, you can inquire to become, one of my clients, and you can inquire to be in my coaching group. And then I reach out to you and we set up an initial call and see if it's a good fit.
Is there any specific closing message you'd like to leave people off with? Is there perhaps one you'd like to leave off for a woman that's perhaps interested in going into this field of work? And then is there a message you'd like to give to just society in general?
Well, the first message I want to give is to anyone who might be on OnlyFans right now is to use it as a tool to improve your relationship and your relationships to yourself and to your own sexuality, instead of using it as a tool to deceive whoever you're with. So that's my first message to anyone who is on OnlyFans right now. And my second message to women would be, if you are naturally a highly sexual person, this could be a great career for you. And you're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to meet a lot of friends and you're going to make a lot of money.
Awesome. And any message for not the women that are in this industry or what have you, but just for people in general about the industry?
Well, a message to women who might be judgmental of the industry is, I would just ask yourself, is there something sexually you have yet to experience? And to allow yourself to be excited to experience that. Because once you start to experience your own sexuality and you start to get excited about trying new things, oftentimes that can transform your relationship and can open up a whole new door so that you're not as jealous or as threatened by somebody online.
That's a great one. Nita, thank you very much for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
A big thank you goes to Nita Marie for coming on the show. She offered a lot of very interesting perspectives that even I hadn't necessarily considered previously, and perhaps opened my mind to certain things that it was a bit closed off to before. Who knows? Whether you agree or disagree with what she had to say, certainly I think what she said is worth considering, because sexuality is such an innate part of the human experience, and it's not going anywhere. Whether you like it or not, sex is here to stay, both as a personal activity and as an industry. OnlyFans is perhaps presenting the lowest barrier of entry that we've ever seen to sex work or sexual work, but is it also providing the safest iteration of it yet? Perhaps. Is it female empowerment? Is it female degeneracy? Is it the decay of society? Or is it just a modern iteration of what always has been and always will be? Maybe it's a little bit all of the above. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Be sure to subscribe, show some love, like the episode. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the episodes coming soon. Go to zachthehealthking.com to check out everything I have going on. I have a lot of interesting things I'll be bringing you guys, whether it's more episodes here, whether it's great products for you to buy to keep yourselves healthy and not kill yourselves, whether it's my guest appearances I'm doing on other people's podcasts, and there's plenty of those coming out. Go to zachthehealthking.com. You can find it all there.